Hey everyone, today we'll be doing 50 puzzles on Chess.com's Puzzle Rush Survival Mode, and I'm going to talk about my thought process as I approach these puzzles, and hopefully this video will help you guys out when you solve your own puzzles or when you try to solve tactics or find tactics in games. So I think we can get started now. So let's hit play. We're going to get a little countdown. So basically, Puzzle Rush Survival means we get unlimited time to solve the puzzles, so I'm going to try and get through 50. But if I miss, I think 3, then I basically can't do any more. So let's try and get to 50 without any mistakes. So we have our first puzzle here. And here I noticed that we've got even material, but it looks like White's king is sort of trapped on the back rank because my knight covers these two escape squares. So if I were to check the king and they can't go up, and I were to cut off the back rank, then they'd be mated. So I have rook a1 checkmate, right? Next puzzle, looks like we have a back rank issue for black, so we can play rook c8 here. After rook c8, black blocks, but I can take and take again. I forget the move, like rook e4, but here's a back rank mate also, just check and take, so we can do that. So the first few puzzles are going to be kind of simple, and they're just going to be like these 1 to 2 move checkmate patterns, or like the same sort of theme, like back rank mates. I'll try to keep the details on how I approach these puzzles a bit short, but still informative. I don't want to spend too much time on these first few ones, but I will sort of explain my thought process as much as I can. As we get into the later puzzles, though, it's going to be a lot harder, so I'll have to take some time to really think about it, and then I think those will be the most instructive because I'll give you some tips on what moves to look when you have a lot of candidate moves to choose from, and how to weed out some moves that could potentially look tempting but are just incorrect. So here it looks like we have another back ranker, queen check, and take and mate. Bishop takes e6. Here I notice that this h2 pawn is attacked by my queen and my rook. So we got 2 attackers and 1 defender. So I will take that, and that's checkmate. Here it looks like queen f7 is checkmate in 1 move. Let's do that. We're at 6 now. Yeah, these first few are going to go by a bit fast. So here I can take this bishop. However, I think when the queen moves, the queen can probably defend this knight. So it might be smart to take this knight first with check and then pick up the free bishop, and then we'll be a piece up. So queen takes g4, f5 is played, and queen takes b4 should be the answer. Here queen takes f7 is a free pawn, and more importantly, we've got this queen f8 move because we have another back rank checkmate. Here, notice that the king is kind of in trouble because this bishop cuts off all these squares. So if we were to check the king on this file, or on this diagonal, the king will be in checkmate. So bishop a3 is checkmate. We got that. Okay, this is an interesting puzzle. So here we have a discovered attack. So if I move this bishop, the king will be in check. Now I want to move the bishop to a square where I'm able to win some material. So if I go bishop c4, I'll be able to simultaneously check the king, introduce this discovered check, and take this rook. So we'll go bishop c4 here, take the rook. Oh, here we have what they call a fork. So the queen's on d7, the rook's on a8. My knight is worth less than both these pieces. So if I were to win one of them, or if I were to trade my knight for one of them, that'd be very advantageous for me. I can actually win the rook outright here by playing knight b6, forking the queen and the rook. So let's do that now, knight b6 and take the rook. All right, here it looks like we just have a checkmate in 1 move with queen a8, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that looks all right. We got 12 now. Okay, so knight e7. So it's black to move here, which means I'm going this way. And let's see. So if I go b2, I think that I'll be threatening b1 if the knight moves. So let's go b2, and then if the king tries to corral this pawn, I'll just march my pawn forward and sort of draw the knight away, deflect the knight away, so that I can queen. I don't think I can go f3 first because white can just take it, and when I go b2, they'll just go back to d2. So it's important that I play b2 first, so the king goes to d5, and now I think I can just run this pawn to the point where I can just force white to take it, and then when white moves their knight away, either to f3 or f1, I will queen. So f3, king c4, f2, and it doesn't prompt me to go any further because that would have been just a promotion there. So queen c2 here is just check, and king moves, queen c1. We have a back rank mate. Here it looks like I can play rook h3 check, and if the king moves up to defend the rook, right, the king has to move to a square to defend the rook if they want to stay in the game. So rook h3, the only move is king f4. Then I have this move rook h4 check, picking up this rook, and I'll be up a rook, and we should be winning this game. Take this rook, perfect. My knight's blocking this pawn from promoting, so it seems like a pretty easy win. I just take this pawn and run this pawn, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm in time to just run this pawn. Let me make sure I don't have to shoulder the king. A5, here, A4, king E3, 3, here, and we're in time. King's not in the box, so it looks like this king's going to come here, but it's not enough, because when I queen, I will defend the knight and probably queen with check. Here it looks like I can just take on H5 and have checkmate, so let's do that. Queen A5 looks strong here, and after king to A7, I can pick up this rook and have this devastating threat of bishop to B8 check and then moving. So I think that's the answer. Let's go here and pick up the rook. Nice. We're at 18 now. And here, let's see. So I can play queen E8, but then queen G8 just blocks, and I don't think I have anything there. So let's see how we can checkmate black. If I move this knight to G5 or F8, the king has this nice G8 escape square. However, if I play knight F6, I'll be blocking these two squares, the H7 and the G8 square, and forcing the queen to go to H6 or H7 to block the check, in which I can just take with my queen. So I'll show that in a second. Knight F6 check, queen H6, and just take the free queen, and that's mate. Here I notice that black has a pretty open diagonal here, right? The F-pawn move, which means that this G6 square and this F7 square and this H5 square are weak. So queen H5 check forces the king to move either to E7 or F8, and I can just deliver mate on F7. So let's do that. Oh, he can throw in G6 if he wants, but I could just take and play queen F7. Here it looks like the back rank is weak once again. I can play rook F8 check, and after we exchange, king goes forward. I can play rook F7 and pick up this bishop, but I can also just take this rook now. So I can't even move this rook. What am I saying? There's a... Okay, that was dumb. I can just take this rook and then bishop G1, king takes, rook takes, and then I go rook F8 and then rook F7. So yeah. Take this, rook takes, rook F8 check, king up, rook F7, and then pick up the bishop. Sorry about that that mistake. H3. Looks like I can just play rook takes H3, pawn takes, queen takes H3, and after queen blocks, I can just play queen F3, checkmate, or check, and then take on G2. So rook takes H3, takes, queen H2, queen F3, and that should be mate in one. Here, queen F7, king up, followed by the move bishop F4 would be check. So queen takes F7 first. It doesn't even prompt me to keep going, but basically, if the king went to D8, like king D8, I'd play queen D7, and if the king went up, I'd play bishop F4, and then mate the king on D7 when the king goes to C6. I can't go queen D7 after that instead of bishop F4 because he goes king E5. Here, I have the move knight F3 check because the pawn would be pinned, right? I have this pin, so the king would be forced to go back, and then the knight will cover the G1 and the H2 squares, so I can just play rook A1 check, and when the rook blocks on D1, I'll just take the rook. So I'll show that now. Knight F3 check, king back, rook A1, take the rook, and we're good. Oh, this is a nice one. So we have what's called a smothered mate here. So basically, if the knight checks on H3, the king moves, and the queen can go to G1 in a nice queen sacrifice. So queen G1 check here, and knight F2 is mate. It's smothering the king in the corner. This is a nice example of sort of trying to get back to the original position, but with a slight difference in position. So after rook takes G7, or how do I explain this? So I guess if I were to play knight F6 now, that would be mate if he couldn't take my knight. But I can get this exact position without the G-pawn by just taking the G-pawn and then going back. So rook takes G7, king back, rook H7 check, and then if king G8, knight F6 would be mate. That's why the puzzle's over. Here, queen takes on D5. Looks like I can just take the queen and then take this bishop if I'm not mistaken, and then I'll be a piece up. So let's do that. Queen takes D5 and rook takes E2. Takes on F6. G takes F6 is fine. Here I see that white looks like they're doing well. However, I have this move rook takes C5, and the point is he can't take my rook because I'll just take his queen. Or he could do that, but that would be very bad. But more importantly, if rook takes C5, if they take my queen, I can play rook takes C1, and that's mate. And that looks like it just wins on the spot because there's nothing you can do. So I can take the queen now. Yep. Here, rook E5 is just mate in 1. The king has no squares. They can't go to the E file. Can't take my rook because, you know, it's protected. And the king can't go here because of the bishop, so rook E5 is mate in 1. 29. I think if I play queen takes e7, there's not really much he can do. After queen takes e7, I see that I'm threatening queen g7 mate. And if it's defended with rook g8, I can just take on f6, and that's all she wrote. So queen takes e7 looks like the solution. Queen takes f2 is just a random spite check. I'll just take that free queen. Here I see rook takes e1 can be blocked with bishop f1, but after that I can take on f1, king takes, and notice that the e2 square is covered. So if I were to check the king on the back rank, it'd be mate, and I can't with queen c1. So I'll show that here. Rook takes e1, bishop f1, and I can take and go queen c1, checkmate. Let's see here. Looks like we have another smothered mate scenario where I can go queen g8. This time, black can't take. It's not really a smothered mate because his knight's not on h6. It's not the traditional sort of smothered mate puzzle. But the point is, black can't take with the king because my queen is defended with a bishop. So after black is forced to take with a rook, I have this knight f7 move. So queen g8 and knight f7. Here, this is nice. Notice that my knight covers the g8 square and the g6 square. So if I were to take on h7 here and have my rook be protected, that'd be mate. But what I can do here is I can take on h7, and after king takes, the king can't go here because the knight covers both those squares. So I just give a check on the h-file, and after black blocks it, I'll just take, and that's the puzzle. So 33 here, I think knight takes c2 is not possible because if bishop takes d2, queen takes c2 is met with bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, followed by taking here. So that can't be it. What I do see, though, is that if I play rook b8 check, black has to go king h7 or block, and I'll get to that in a second. So if rook b8 check, if black goes to h7, then I can take on c2 with the queen because it's check. And black will have to take back, and I'll take back, and I'll have, I guess, 2 rooks for a bishop, which is just winning. And more importantly, if rook b8, if black decides to block with bishop c8, I can throw in this move rook takes c8, because if the rook takes, then the queen is unprotected. So I'll show that now. Rook b8 check, king h7, take on c2 with check, take, and that's the puzzle. Here, I think I've got, let's see, queen takes f7, king over. What's the answer there? Let's see. I can try rook e2 there, actually. So it's obviously queen takes f7, I think. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Okay. I think here I can actually take on e2, which looks scary, but if they take with a pawn, it's mate immediately. And if they take with a rook, I think I can play king h3. It's important that I don't go to the back rank because that was met with queen c1, which would checkmate me if I go to either g1 or h1. I think after rook takes e2, I can go king h3. So let's look at some checks that black could throw in. Rook h2 does nothing. Well, maybe rook h2 does do something. So let's see. Take, king h3, rook h2, king h2, queen d2, king h3, queen g2, king g4, and the checks run out. And if rook takes e2, rook takes e2, king here. If queen e6, we just take that with the bishop. If queen h4, we just take that. And if rook takes a2, we just have mate on the back rank. So I think that's the answer. So rook takes e2, and king up. There's no way that black can get the king out because I'm threatening like queen f8 and queen g8, and also like this queen is not placed well. It's blocking the pawns from being able to move so that the king can get out. So king h3, rook h2, king takes, queen d2, king h3, and that's the answer to the puzzle. Okay, here I notice that if I play queen a5, I'll be both checking the king and introducing a new attacker on this bishop. However, if I go queen a5 immediately, b4 can be played, and the bishop's defended by the knight, so I can't take it. What I can do, though, is I can play bishop takes a3. After knight takes a3, I can throw in queen a5 check. Then I'll check the king and take this free knight. So bishop takes a3, queen a5, and take the knight. Here it looks like I have queen d8 check. After queen d8 check, rook f8 is impossible because bishop is pinning the rook to the king, so they'll have to play queen f8. After that, I can take this rook. They'll be forced to take with the king, so I'll show that here. So queen d8 check, queen f8. If I take this rook now, and king takes, now look that this queen and the king are on this open f-file, which I can handily transfer my rook over to. That will check the king, and I'll pick up the free queen, and it's probably mate in a few moves. So here, I can play the move queen h1. After the king moves up, I can throw in f5. The king can only go to one square. They can't go back to the h-file because the queen covers that. f3 will be covered by my queen. So after king f4, my pawn's on f5, I can probably play queen e4, and that's checkmate. So I'll show that here. Queen h1 check, king over, f5 check, king f4, and queen e4. Here, rook to c1 was played. So how do I approach this? So I can't well, queen d4 is mate, I think. So that should be mate in 1. We're at 39, so I said I'd get to 50. And then I'll stop. So let's see, what do we do here? So if we take on g3, I see that rook takes g7 can be played. And then it's not so clear what I do. I can't really defend this pawn. I could go g2, but even rook takes g2 is good. Also, rook g3 check is good. So if I just take rook takes here, rook g3 is just it's just good. So what I can do though is realize that the king is boxed in, so I can try rook b1, threatening rook h1, which can only be stopped by the move king h2, but that fails to f takes g3, and then the king is forced back, and then it's mate. So let's go rook b1, threatening rook h1, and that's the answer, because if king h2 just f takes g3. Here, let's see. So this queen is under attack, but I can't take it because it's pinned, so we got to keep that in mind. I think what we could do here is let's take a look. So if queen takes f7, rook takes f7, pawn takes f7. If the king moves over, I think I have nothing there actually. Yeah, the king just has to go to h8. If they go here, maybe no, they're threatening mate actually. So I have to do a bunch of forcing moves. So actually, pawn takes is probably correct. So pawn takes, they can't take with the rook because I'll take with the queen. If the king goes here, actually let's cover if the king goes here first. If the king goes to h8, I can just queen, and if rook takes, then I take the bishop. If the bishop takes, I go queen h7 mate. So I think I can just show the rest of the lines after I take. So take, rook takes f7. I thought, so I'll go back. So it takes, I thought the move would be king h7, but I guess they don't want to do, they want to do this, which I can just take and then take on g7. But if I go back, the move I was looking at was king h7, and after I queen, I can, or I don't queen, after I promote, I can actually promote to a knight, which would force black to take it or move the king back, in which I can just take on g7. But if if rook takes f7, I can just take. So queen f4 is mate here, I think. Yes. Here, rook g2 comes to mind, threatening queen d2. And I think that's the answer, because if queen d6, I can play queen g5. Let's see, if the king moves over, I can play rook d2. If queen f4, rook e2 can be played. And if f4, then queen g3. So that's probably the move. Rook g2. Maybe it's not, though. Maybe it's like queen d1. No, queen d1 allows all sorts of stuff. Like the first thing I see after queen d1 is you can play like queen f8, move over, and you can even take a g7 and just throw in a bunch of random checks that could disrupt my plan. So rook g2 or rook g1. If rook g1, actually, why not rook g1? Rook g1, queen d6 here. Here. Let's see. Okay. Because rook g1, if king here, then I go queen d4. Right? So it's probably rook g2 though. Ah, I see. If here, then they go here. Yeah. But then check. Yeah, it looks dangerous, but rook g2 must be the move, I think. Let's make sure. So rook g2, queen d6. Sorry, rook g2, queen d6, queen g5, f4, check, and yeah, this has to be it. Rook g2, queen d6, queen g5, f4, queen g3, d2, rook takes. Can I do something else? Can I go here? No, he just runs away. So I'll just take this. And let's see, queen takes f4 maybe. Queen takes f4, check, move up, d7, check. Okay, this can be a little complicated. Queen takes f4, check here, d7. I think I can just take on e4, and I should corral the pawn. Let me double check again. So I don't have any checks here, and black is threatening to check and play d7. Queen takes f4, c8, king up, d7. Oh, do I have this? Just pick up the pawn? Yeah, I do. And here, and d7, just queen f7, and just pick up the pawn. Okay. So we're at 43. Here I can probably queen, but then the 3 pawns look pretty strong. So what I could do also is I could play rook c2. After rook f7 check, I have rook c7. And if the rook just stays there, I can play rook c8, and then trade off the rook somehow, and then queen first. And the queen should be just able to win, but the rook against the 3 pawns I don't think is good. So rook c2. Oh, I missed that move, but actually it doesn't matter because rook c8, rook f7 is met with rook c7, and that just trades the rooks and wins the game. So knight d2 is played. First thing I notice is that this queen has limited squares. So if I play like knight a5, queen c3 can be played, b4, queen e3, bishop c2, followed by knight d5. That just looks like the queen is getting trapped. But maybe not though, queen e5. Hold on, let's see. So knight b4 is also, well, then knight takes e4, so let's not do that. It's got to be a forcing move, I think. So knight a5, queen e3, bishop c2. If the rook moves, knight d5, queen e5. Let's see. Knight a5, queen e3. Can I go back? Maybe. So it has to be knight a5. Any other move, he just takes my bishop. Bishop d5 maybe, but queen c2, knight b4, queen goes back. That's fine. So knight a5, queen e3, right? And now I think if I attack the queen in any way, they can just take and then hide on b1. So the move has to be bishop c2. Queen c3 is played. Okay, but now I just take this. I don't see anything else. Just take. Yeah, that's the answer. But I was curious on what happens if the rook moves. Maybe I'm just missing something very obvious. It's totally possible. Here, king f7 looks like a move because it threatens to checkmate the black king. So if rook c7, rook d7 to block. Even if we trade rooks, it looks like I'm going rook d5, so that should be good enough. King f7 here. What's the difference between if I go rook d7, if I go rook 6 d7, they go rook c1 and it's pinned. But if I do this one, they have to take, and I can go rook d5 checkmate. So queen h2 looks like the move here. That's a bit of a easy. Oh, I'm in check. Yeah, that makes more sense. King f8 allows like this and bishop c4 stuff. And then they run. King d8 doesn't allow that. King d8, what's the move? Knight e6, I'll just take it. I think it's king d8. Knight e6, I'll just take it with the bishop, I think. Not seeing anything that white can do now. And just queen h2, queen h1. Okay, here, one of the things I notice is that this queen looks like it could be trapped, potentially. And also I have this nice diagonal pressure here. So if I play knight f1, queen has to go to e2, I believe. Then I could try to attack the queen again. What else can I do? I can also take on f6 and play e5, but that's probably not good. Bishop c3 also. Bishop c3. Okay, bishop c3, queen f4, e5 wins this piece. And if they check here, it looks like that's nothing, so they have to go to f4. So bishop c3. Queen d6 is the same thing though. E5. I thought, yeah. Okay. Here, I think queen takes h3 is just really, really strong because I'm threatening like knight or like knight e2. And then taking on g3 in some lines. I'm just trying to see, can I play rook takes e4 first? Does that matter? I don't think so. Let's see, queen takes h3, bishop g2, knight e2, queen takes e2, queen g3, queen h5. So maybe the move is rook takes e4 first. So take bishop g2. Can I go queen takes g3? Probably not. Take here. Queen h5 maybe. Threatening knight e2. g4, knight e2. Okay, this is complicated. So if I play rook takes e4 first, then king g2 can be played. Right, so that doesn't seem good. It has to be taking this. I don't think something like knight e2 works here. Knight e2 they take, queen takes here, and then like even like bishop g2 there, I think is good. So let's go queen takes h3. b4 is played. So now this just looks like it's inviting a tactic. So let's see what we got. We got rook takes e4, pawn takes, knight e2. So that's not good. So rook takes, that's not good for white. So rook takes, queen takes e4, knight e2 now, queen takes g3. Not really sure where that leads me though. Rook takes e4, take knight e2, take queen takes g3, king moves over. Here, king back. No, I'm not seeing it. Maybe knight e2 now. Queen takes e2, queen g3, king has to go to h1. And then check here. Rook up. d4. Nope, that's not it either. I feel like I'm missing something very obvious here. So let's keep looking. So bishop b6 would be interesting. Rook e4. Wow, that's nice. Takes. No, that's knight e2. What am I saying? Rook takes c4. Queen takes. Knight e2. Takes g3. King over. Where's the win there? Here. Okay. Let's keep looking. Knight e2 now. Take. Here. Check. Rook takes c4. Yeah, that should be it. Knight e2. Queen takes. Check. Here. Queen h4. And then take the rook. Or take the bishop. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. Knight e2 check. Queen takes. Queen takes g3 because of the pin. He plays bishop g2, but after rook takes e2, they can't take my queen because the bishop's still pinning the pawn. So 49. So I guess this is the last one because we're going to get to 50. But so I guess we should get this correct so that we get the perfect 50 puzzles. So knight takes d4. Looks like queen h4 check is good because my bishop is cutting off the king. So that should be it. Right? I'm not missing anything obvious. There we go. Okay, so that was 50 puzzles. I thought it was kind of funny how that last one was like a mate in one. That was very easy. And the other one, I kind of had to think a lot because it was multiple moves. So it's a bit inconsistent, right? Some of the 2000 level puzzles are just very easy to solve, and some of them are harder and definitely challenging. And it takes me a while to think my way through them. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope you guys learned something and can use some of the things I said throughout the video while solving your own puzzles or finding tactics that could be really crucial to winning games. So I guess I'll end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.